Well, welcome back, folks. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to share with you something I discovered while working on the top cover or lid of the Ford 8N. Obviously that's what this is right here. And as I was looking over the linkage and preparing to replace a hardened dowel pin, I came across something I thought you might be interested in. So we're going to spend this video today talking about that discovery. I'm going to reposition the camera and zoom in a little bit here just to share with you the context of how this pin is used, and then we'll move over to the bench for an overhead shot where I can get a little more detail. We're looking at the underside, of course, of the top cover or lid for the 8N. You're looking at the linkage that goes into activating the draft control. I think I might have discussed this briefly or mentioned it once before, but what I'm pointing at right here is the hole for a steel dowel that rides against this is basically a cam. It's a machined surface right here, and when this is back like that, the pin rides and follows this curvature or this cam during the motion of the draft control. And that pin right that fits in here has a tendency to wear against this surface. Very, very common, and in fact my pin, which I believe was original, does show some evidence of wear. It wasn't near as bad as others that I've seen, but I did remove it with the intention of replacing it, and that's when I ran into this little situation that I thought I'd share with you today. Here's the pin I pulled out of the hydraulic lift system that rides against that casting or that cam-shaped machine surface in the casting, and you can see right there, I think, a little flat spot right where I'm pointing to right there. Now admittedly this isn't nearly as bad as many of them I've seen in photos online. Some of these will wear, literally right through, and then you lose some of your height control and your hydraulics, or they'll wear much worse than this. And what some people do is they just take the pin out, turn it around, put it back in, and get another 75 years out of it. And certainly I could have done that. That would have been a solution. Or I could have just left it alone because this one's not worn all that bad. But that's not kind of the way I roll. As some of you watching this video know, that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and since I was in there anyway, I thought, well, I'll just replace it with a new pin. So I went out and ordered a new pin from a third-party supplier, and this is the pin right here that is sold as a replacement for this pin. It's a little bit longer in length, but that really doesn't matter. But I think this is nothing but a 5/16 or .3125 steel, hardened steel dowel pin. I think that's all this is, and you can buy them all over the place. And so I ordered it from a third-party supplier thinking, well, that'll solve my problem. I was ordering some other parts anyway. This is only, I think, like $4.25. Wasn't worried about it. And it arrived in a few days. Now, typically what I'll do on something like this is I will compare the new to the old, and I thought, well, this was listed as a .3125. That's Imperial or SAE, .3125, or 5/16 of an inch by 7/8 of an inch long, the part number that is assigned to this. Now, I went through the Ford parts catalog, tractor parts catalog, which you see right here, and I could not find this pin listed anywhere. Here's the section right here that shows the hydraulics that I thought would be the relevant page, and I couldn't find that pin in here. I even went back to this is very well done, by the way. I thought Ford set a great example with how they set up their parts catalog. And I went back to the dowel pin section right here where they list their dowel pins, and I could not find the part number, which is 374072S. I ultimately found out by just doing research on the internet. I found that part number listed. Nonetheless, I thought, well, I'm going to compare this pin, which is sold as that
374072S to the original. So I took out my caliper. I also, by the way, did check it with a micrometer. For those of you that are saying, well, caliper isn't accurate enough, it is for my purposes. This will be fine. I checked it with a micrometer and it was they matched. So this is much more convenient, especially for video work. So zeroing out my caliper here, as you can see, I think I measured this and it comes out at 0.3125, exactly what I would have expected based on everything I've read for the part number. It pretty much comes out where I would have expected it to be. So that seems to match, this aftermarket part seems to match what is listed as the dimensions for the part. So me being me, I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and check the original part and see what size it is. I knew it was a little bit shorter, but I wasn't worried about that. So I checked this, and what do I come up with? Is around 39, 395, 38, 385, depending on where I measure. Obviously, it might be a little worn in spots, but it's considerably smaller by around 3.5 thousandths than this pin. And I'm thinking, that doesn't sound right. Now, I'm not a machinist, and I don't pretend to be a machinist, but I have done quite a bit of machining. And I know, at least in my experiences, that for a interference fit of a dowel pin, that you normally figure 0.5 to 1/1000th oversize to allow for a tight fit when you insert the dowel. Well, this is 3.5 thousandths, which is way, way outside of the reasonable realm of an interference fit from my experience. So I got really suspicious that this part, which is sold as a replacement for this part, is about 3.5 thousandths too large. So I went back online and started doing some research, and I started to run into conversations in some of the different tractor forums. There wasn't a lot, but there was some conversation around this replacement pin. That is the 0.3125 is very hard to get in to replace the original. Well, gee, imagine that. It's 3.5 thousandths oversize compared to the original, and I'm not surprised I had a hard time getting it in, even using lots of heat, which they had alluded to. They could almost not get them in. In fact, I think some people said they gave up and went back to the original because it didn't fit right. Well, it won't, being 3.5 thousandths oversized. In fact, you're lucky if you try to force this in, even with a lot of heat in the parts, that in the fitting where it goes into, you're very lucky you don't break something. So I continued to do research and thought, well, this is really odd, and I came across only 1 or 2 points out there on online that there was a reference to, though this part is listed as 5/16 0.3125 by 7/8 0.875, that actually is wrong, that the part should be 0.309 by 0.875-ish. That is really what you should use, because the original listing or dimensions given are incorrect. Well, I thought, okay, and the advice given by the person who posted that, who's done apparently a lot of work with these tractors, said go out and order from New Holland, which I did. There's a New Holland part right there, the correct part. So that's it, 374072S. They said order a New Holland part. Don't go aftermarket, because it's listed incorrectly in the size. So I ordered, this is the New Holland pin, brand new. Haven't installed it yet. It's about the right length, a little shorter than the aftermarket. So I thought, okay, let me measure this one. This is the New Holland part. Gee, imagine that. Comes out exactly, virtually exactly the same size as the original. 3.5 thousandths smaller than the aftermarket, which is again listed as the correct size, and it's not. You can see right there. So I'm going to install this New Holland part right here to replace the original. In terms of length, the New Holland part is pretty much the same, 0.881. This one is, 0.886. And length really doesn't matter. And you can see this one is like 1 inch, supposed to be, I think, 1 inch. Length doesn't matter. So it's no wonder people have had problems getting this in, because it's too big. It's way, way too big for fit for a dowel pin. But the New Holland part, and you can see, by the way, it's a pretty old part, 519 of 98. But the New Holland part is exactly the right size and matches the original virtually dead on. And again, if I use my micrometer, it comes out essentially the same. So that's really the story here, is the aftermarket part is too big. I'm not going to name the supplier, because I think they're all probably the same. I could have gone down to a machine shop and got this, or a supplier of machine tools and such. But going to the New Holland part right here, I managed to find the correct part. So this is going to now be installed back into the top cover, and I'll be on my way with the repair installed. You can see right here, I'm pointing to it right there. Here's the cam it rides on when the lever's engaged. It was a little challenging to get in, frankly. I was a little surprised how hard it was to get that back in place. I did support the back of this, the arm that it fits into here. I did support this well, because I wanted to drive it in from this direction. I heated the assembly up really, really hot, and then I used a drift and a hammer and drove it into place. But again, it was a little tougher than I guess I was expecting. The old one came out really easy. I can't imagine using an oversized pin that, when we discussed a few moments ago, at 3.5 thousandths or so oversized pin. I can't imagine driving that in with the arm in position. Now, if you took the assembly apart and you took this arm right here and you put it in a press and you heated it up really well, you probably could press it together. I would still have concerns about that, about doing some damage to the arm, but you could probably do it that way. And maybe that's how folks do it. I don't know. I did not want to have to take this whole assembly apart. I really didn't have a reason to. And you have to remove the draft control spring off, extends out the back of the unit, which can be challenging. There just really wasn't a need right now for me to do that. So I wanted to leave it in position, so that's why I had to support the arm on the back side here and drive it into place. But it's done. So this top cover now is ready to go back on the tractor. Gasket surface has been cleaned. The port here and here, these are connected. This feeds the cylinder. It comes in through this port and goes into the cylinder through this one. I have to get a new cylinder yet, which will probably be a topic of the next video, I'm thinking. Likely, I'm expecting it in the next few days. Then I can mount the cylinder, and then this unit will be ready to go back on the tractor. First thing I'll have to do before I do that, though, is reinstall the hydraulic pump in the base of the unit, and which I'll probably be doing here in the next few days or so, and then we'll get to reinstalling the top cover once I get someone over here to help me with that. So that's going to be it for this video today, folks. Any issues, questions, thoughts, drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.